Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Olga, known as OnestPress across the socials. Welcome back. We're going to discuss national and global news. Thank you for waiting. I'm undecided. I'm kind of happy that we waited till 5 p.m. so we can talk about all this obnoxious executive orders and memorandums signed today at the White House. On the other hand, I'm thinking we should never adjust our schedule. So here's a question. Do you like later time? Do you like the 12 p.m. time? Please comment. Let me know what you prefer. But if you're watching live or not live, regardless, will be available on YouTube, Substack, and even Twitter. Okay, so thank you so much for joining. Today is August 7th. And first, what I want to talk about. I don't know about you, but I love series Gilded Age on HBO. This is not a commercial of any kind, but that's about it. That's where I like my Gilded Age. On Sundays on HBO. But turns out Gilded Age came to town. It came to town to our, Oval Office. Look at the door. The door coming out from, and by the way, all this golden stuff is as valuable as decorations probably on HBO's Gilded Age. And here's another one. It's a lot of gold. It's a lot of sprayed gold on top of something very cheap. I found it on Alibaba. Others found it in Home Depot. Regardless where it is now hanging at the Oval Office. And also, if you think about Rose Garden, it has no roses, but it has these beautiful umbrellas. And I guess the yellow and orange was as close as they could come to gold. It looks very sad. I'm waiting for the fresh stains on that white pavement. I don't know what that is. But I actually Googled those umbrellas, and I found them at Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago is filled with the exact umbrellas. And here is a little message to the White House. It's the same $49.99 on Amazon, but if you would have scrolled through entire colors available, I did that. There's also some same umbrellas available as flags. So you could have had a bunch of American flags. Can you imagine? You were just too lazy to scroll all the way and find the flaggy umbrellas. What do you think about it? Let me know. Ugh. Doug is throwing up. Hello. Thank you for joining. I'm not happy that you're throwing up, but it's two of us. Hey, Brad. Hello. The ones with American flags are $50. Oh, 1 cent more. Now that explains it. Hey, Brandon. Oh my goodness. Hey. Too much gold for my taste. If I want to see that much gold, I'd go to Taj Mahal. Exactly. But now you can just go to the Oval Office and experience all the decorations. Very cheap ones, too. Doug says probably made in office. But yeah, probably. One can hope. Or I may have read your post on Blue Sky. Oh, you did? Okay, Brad. Thank you. Thank you for reading my post on Blue Sky. So you are that person who reads them. Kidding. We have a lot of people there, and I'm very grateful for your time and trust on Blue Sky or elsewhere. So let's get to the news. Well, kind of, sort of news. As promised, we had executive orders scheduled for 12 p.m. Eastern. Executive orders didn't show up until 2:30 p.m. That's when we got a hint of what the heck those executive orders would be, with White House informing everyone just about one executive order that is about the students and universities and data. And I have all the readouts and I did the fact check, so I'm not going to read you all this nonsense. We're going to dive into what actually happened. But before that, they had a mice problem. And so today's pooler, right, because one person of the White House press pool has the duty to, inform the entire world, essentially, with everything that's going on at the White House. Today is this charming gentleman from USA Today. And so he says we've got a bit of a mouse problem this morning in the White House press room. Custodians just placed down traps. And then he wondered, with all these renovations unfolding, including 90,000 square foot ballroom, might we see even more mice critters? I can't see it here because I have the stuff on my, what's his name? Garrison, right? Garrison last name. I can't see first name. Comment if you see it. Thank you so much for informing us. This is too bad, but I think it has a lot of rats too. You should check for that. And just to think that about a year ago we were here, we had hope, and this was actually the day yesterday when Waltz was introduced as VP, as a running mate for Kamala Harris. I remember there was this big rally in Pennsylvania. I think it was Philadelphia, and yeah, those were the times just a year ago. Can you imagine? A year, or maybe already a year, whatever you anticipated as. And so in today's news, we have a bunch of shit, bunch of news. So we have Trump's executive orders. We have tariffs shaking global trade. We have mass shooting in Fort Stewart. We have also leaked proposal that U.S. made to Putin. And we're going to discuss that. And then Russia did confirm that. And then Zelensky called literally the entire world today. And I literally have his readout as to what he spoke about with everyone. Essentially, he even called IMF. And then we're going to talk about geopolitical deals and war, whatever crap. We call it news these days. So first, the executive orders. There's 4 of them. As it's like a memorandum, an executive order, same old. So first is this executive order that was leaked to the press. It's about higher education admissions, and they call it transparency. So Trump's order instructs the education department. I thought it was dismantled, but I guess we're back. So it instructs the DOE to expand and tighten university admissions reporting with stricter checks and penalties for non-compliance by 2025-2026. It aims to ensure no school uses race or related DEI factors to favor applicants. So essentially, in about 4 years, all the graduates will suddenly be what white, blue eyes, blonde reminds us on something. If you exactly put race in it and then say other DEI factors, that's just, I mean, Hitler Youth is, jealous. Second one was, it's about fair banking for all Americans. Now, we did discuss that already about 2 days ago. They were writing it. Essentially, Trump's order directs regulators to stop banks from denying services based on political or religious beliefs. So far, so good, right? Wait. It will reinstate affected clients within 120 days. And then in the same order, they're literally writing that it specifically calls for review of denials involving references to anything mentioning MAGA or Trump. So it's people with bad credit history or score who were denied now will have to be reinstated, because essentially they can pull the MAGA card and say, well, you didn't approve me because you don't like my politics. But last time I checked, banks were not really, searching through my Blue Sky feed or Facebook or YouTube. I don't know. Maybe they do, but that's what it is now. But essentially, it gives people this opportunity to claim that they were somehow discriminated. Now, the third one is it's about alternative assets in 401k. So Trump is issuing an executive order, and he did sign it already, to fast track access to alternative assets in retirement plans by directing the Labor Department and SEC to ease regulatory, can't pronounce this word, barriers. Regulation barriers. The move aims to expand investment options like private equity and real estate and 401ks within 180 days. I mean, you know exactly where it's headed. And the final fourth one is it's about improving federal grant making. Well, improving. Improving means redirecting, restructuring. Trump is ordering agencies to streamline federal grants, enforce stricter accountability, and align funding with national policy priorities. The MAGA policy priorities. Each agency must appoint a senior official to oversee grants, with the move also targeting certain DEI programs. So they're going to take money from anything Trump doesn't like, and this includes political parties, think tanks. Remember, he said, well, we should not be providing buildings to these people who gather to think tanks. Maybe he even envisions people thinking in a tank, sitting there and thinking. So essentially, all of this just redirects money elsewhere. And where is a big question mark, because we can write anything on paper. Paper is not going to get read. We're going to say, well, we're going to redirect it to something non-DI related, or we're going to do this or that. But ultimately, we never get any checks or balances. Where does the money go? The tariff money that we now overpay for goods, we don't know where it's going. We don't even know if this was paid for the White House Gilded Age renovations. Was our tax money used for this Alibaba, whatever, Gilded Age decorations order or not? Nobody tells us, because we're celebrating this enrichment and everything comes today in billions of dollars and $30 billion, $28 billion, $128 billion. They're just pulling numbers like rabbits out of a hat. But we get any information as to what this goes to, because everything else is pretty much stripped away, right? Medicaid, almost, the time for that to be limited or gone. Food stamps, any other help, it's just fading away. So where does the money go? Can there be one journalist, because I have a fat rat denied, as to access to the White House. Can one journalist grab themselves by a pair and ask a question? What do you use that money for? If you claim that you pay for White House renovations by yourself with your salary is $400,000 in a year. Trump has been president for 6 months, a bit over 6 months. He says he used his annual salary. Was he ever prepaid that salary? He uses it for the ballroom, but the ballroom is $200 million. So unless I'm confused, this doesn't line up. So where does this money go? To our sovereign fund? To our sovereign? The king? Now that's believable. Now, as to tariffs, today is the day when the tariffs came into effect. And the tariffs are as bipolar as our administration. So first it starts with Bolivia and Nigeria. They faced 15% tariffs. Brazil, 50% tariffs. Lula, I posted a video of him talking to Deutsche Welle, and I don't want to show any videos because every single channel labels me as copyright protected, misuse, whatever. So let me just tell you. He literally said that there is no point in negotiating with Trump because he's using his authoritarian methods, informing other countries about whatever decisions with absolutely no reason for it, nor he wants to actually negotiate, nor he wants to talk to people or discuss anything. He just informs people what the decision will be and how they can literally buy themselves out of it. And Lula said, literally, we will not be negotiating as a small country with a larger country because check the map. And he's sort of right. Now, let's not forget that Brazil is the B in BRICS. Anything that diverts Brazil away from the United States will get them closer to Russia. So this is also the reason why Lula was claiming that both Ukraine and Russia are at fault, behind this conflict. And while Ukraine was not invaded, this was just a misunderstanding sponsored by the West, meaning by the Biden administration. And then at that point, Biden administration said that, well, Lula is resembling Russian propaganda and Chinese propaganda. But again, this is the B in BRICS. So the worse is their relationship to the United States, the more you can expect this to happen because, girl gotta eat. So as to other tariffs, well, we have those set tariffs, and there's negotiations. Like, for instance, with the EU, they went down to 15% in tariffs. Japan, South Korea. Switzerland yesterday, the president of Switzerland, she came to the White House and left without a deal. And then Trump plans to double India's tariff to up to 50%, right? So it's 25% now. He wants to set 50% for India because they're buying crude oil from Russia. But on that later, because this is bogus, he's not going to do it. So if you are interested what the tariff currently look like, Here's a tiny little thing that nobody probably can see. So as you see here, starts from Brazil to Syria to Myanmar, and all these countries. Here it goes. I'm going to add it to the newsletter, so it's going to be larger there, and you can read through if you're interested in any specific country. Now, Trump yesterday on Wednesday announced that, well, this 25% on India, and then said that you're going to see much more secondary sanctions. You're not going to see no secondary sanctions. Okay? I mean, unless you believe in Tooth Fairy and all this. I'd rather believe in Tooth Fairy. At least she was giving us money. Anyway, so in other news, let me check your comments before we talk about the shooting. So, the tariffs hit today, recession. Yeah, exactly. Right. Ghislaine golf trips, probably. Yep. He's building himself a palace because he doesn't plan on it. Right? That's what I think too. Nobody's changing the house that much if you're just renting. The leader of North Korea sent him a letter he was proud of. Yeah. He probably will hang it up. Got the right one. What's the fifth? What's the S in BRICS? Is the Saudi Arabia. Spain. No. Arabia. I thought you were an actual reporter, but I guess I'm mistaken. Oh, I'm not part of your cult, Brandon with the flag. So don't waste your precious time. I'm not part of your cult. So yeah, it's just waste. I'm just going to block you if you comment more, and it's just going to be a waste. So go find your tribe. It's a lot of you because you brought us whatever we're dealing with. So go ahead. Thank you for reposting. Saudi Arabia, yes. And Jack, hey Jack, those tariffs continue to be madness. Right, this is really bipolar too. So, okay, Brandon with the flag. I hope you have departed because you're not gonna like that either. So, federal judiciary got hacked. This was not reported anywhere in mainstream media. This was quietly reported by Politico and then somehow really pushed down. So we down the news cycle. So we would not be really talking about it. But this is very important here. So Politico reports a massive cyber attack on U.S. judiciary case management system, which is CM, ECF, and PACER. Compromising sensitive data, including sealed indictments and warrants. Intelligence officials suspect foreign espionage given the system's long-standing vulnerabilities. So essentially what they got in is any cases, any additional documents that came in as attachments to any filed cases. Is it connected to Epstein? Is it connected to something else? We don't really know, but they are estimating and guesstimating that it is foreign agents or foreign agents that did that. So let's see what will come out of it, but I don't know. Brandon, I'm off Fango. Oh, hey, yeah, Brandon Marshall is different, Brandon. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so there's another Brandon. All right. So now some quick headlines. Let's just cruise over them. Into union busting. So the VA begins terminating labor contracts, part of broader efforts to end federal worker union protections. And this is, I mean, if the cult Brandon likes it, and kudos to you. You have that flag as your profile. How do you like that? Will that affect you? Probably. So I'm guesstimating, people who put flags, they're very much connected to the country. Perhaps there was somebody who served in your family, and hence this will be, something that will affect you. Now, Trump also eyes New York City race for mayor. He's very upset with the Mamdani situation. And Zoran Mamdani has won the sort of our primary. And now the problem here is that you have both the current mayor, the corrupt guy, Mayor Adams, who is running as independent, and he got a pardon from Trump, so he owes him. And that's certainly Trump's favorite. And then you have Cuomo, right? Cuomo, former governor, disgraced governor who came back. He's running also as part of his own party that he launched. So Unless you have Cuomo or Adams dropping, the vote will be divided. And all of this trio is essentially helping Zoran Mamdani to win, whether you like it or not. But this is the situation. And so Trump is reportedly weighing involvement in New York's race to block Democrat Zoran Mamdani. And so he is discussing things like questioning his immigration status. Yes, he is a naturalized citizen, so he wants to question that. He wants to question a bunch of other things. So essentially, he's trying to hurt him because the situation is in his favor. So, as to Olympics travel ban, we saw Trump, mesmerized by these 3 medals that he took himself. Well, he created this Olympic committee that essentially consists of his entire cabinet plus anybody whom they want to invite. And naturally, Trump is headlining this committee. And so athletes can enter for 2028 games. So athletes are exempt of any visa restrictions or penalties or fees that are being imposed upon them. But the problem is that fans are not exempt of anything. So those restrictions and fees and additional charges will be applicable for fans. And for instance, even if you are from, let's say you got your visa earlier, so you don't really need to pay this $5,000 to $15,000 fee that essentially you will be paid back, but there's no system to even issue refunds with our USCIS, which is our immigration system. So even if you don't have to pay because you already had your tourist visa, now upon entry, everybody will need to pay $250 fee to sort of like a deposit that you get once you exit. But again, the system is not even there to pay anybody back. So if you are facing all those issues, plus how people who are not perhaps super white with blue eyes and blonde hair are treated in the United States currently, will you be coming to the United States, spending your hard-earned money to be here, perhaps to cheer on your favorite athletes? Same as also, by the way, is happening even sooner with the World Cup, right? With the FIFA World Cup. So are people going to overpay and also face an opportunity to experience a type of Nazi camp or concentration camp within the United States? Nobody knows. So at this point, this is hurting people. Now, if we talk about, let's say, World Cup in soccer, this is co-chaired and co-hosted with Canada and Mexico. So there is a way to sort of perhaps, arrange those matches to happen somewhere. But then in LA, in terms of Olympics, this is all United States. And we still are in 2025. So it's 3 more years until then. Who knows what will be by then with the United States. Hi, Michael. Michael says, still want the Olympics to move. Same, right? And it's essentially, it would just make sense. But the Olympic Committee, they are very much in cahoots with Russia, right? They offered Russians to compete under the white flag. And so what Trump is doing now, he is talking to Olympic Committee, trying to convince them to let Russians compete under Russian flag. And so this is a big advantage for Russians and perhaps for Olympic Games. So this does play a role, essentially, and Biden administration was against it. Brendan says, I think it'd be too hard to move the Olympics. It takes years. Indeed. Well, Paris is still available. They just hosted it, right? It's an absolute shakedown. No one should go. Yeah. Yep. Canada, yeah. Some play soccer. Yeah, right. I mean, in soccer, it's a bit perhaps even easier because it's one sport. Olympic Games, think about it. It's so many different areas and facilities that are required, right? So in other news, if you are a fan of Aldi, the grocery store, they are expanding. This is the only store, literally, that is expanding because people are looking for cheaper groceries. They're looking for a possibility to get something from Aldi. So the discount grocery chain plans to open 200 new stores across the U.S. this year, more than any competitor. So other news, Air Force wants Cybertrucks, but look for what? So officials plan to use Tesla's armored trucks as future missile targets. as future missile targets. Okay, well, good news. United Airlines was grounded yesterday. Well, the flights were grounded yesterday. A tech outage grounded flights last night. Over 1,000 delays and dozens of cancellations followed. So if you were part of that, apologies. I hope you got safe wherever you were headed. And then tomorrow, the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan will be at the White House. They both are meeting with Trump. They will be sort of holding this U.S., Azerbaijan, Armenia talks. What we do know about Azerbaijan is that they started producing missiles and parts of missiles for Ukraine. Is that what Trump will be talking about them, talking to them about? Because together with the Turkish providers or producers, or those manufacturers that are working together with Azerbaijan, they started producing arms for Ukraine. So this is a big sort of development in Europe, and it's interesting that they're suddenly called upon to come to DC and talk to Trump. So let's see how that will work out. Now, as to DC crime, Trump is threatening to take over city police. We heard yesterday, well, we discussed it yesterday, that I think day before yesterday, this big balls guy who is probably top 21 years old, who worked for Doge, who, was very proud of whatever he did there. He was beaten up by a girl and a boy who are 15 years old. Both of them got detained. They call this carjacking, whatever happened in DC, but now the Trump administration is using this for sort of seizing the power over police in DC. So Trump is considering federal control of the DC police and deploying National Guard, citing rising crime. However, local statistics show violent crime is down 26% from last year. And carjacking a former federal employee, this big balls guy, allegedly by two 15-year-olds, is what is prompting it. Right? It kind of reminds me on that story when somebody stepped on a girl's foot and then this whole massacre started. So, interesting, but is it worth it? Probably not. Now, as to the shooting, and I didn't say anything here about it. My bad. Wait. I do have it. Okay, so there was a mass shooting at Fort Stewart. The suspect is Sergeant Cornelius Redford, who's 28 years old. He allegedly followed a co-worker to maintenance area and opened fire with personal firearm. And while doing so, he also hurt five soldiers. So 5 soldiers were shot, but thankfully all are in stable condition. Now, in the aftermath, Redford, who joined the Army in 2018 and had a recent DUI arrest, was subdued by fellow troops, and his charges are pending. Now, I listened to an interview with his father, who said that this Redford sergeant was complaining about racism towards him at the base. So again, the investigation is pending, so I'm not gonna spread any conspiracies, but this is what his father said today. Okay, so let's talk a bit about some business news. Brad says Teslas were supposed to be environmental saviors. Maybe use them for temporary housing, right? That'd be interesting, but they're using them as targets for missiles. That's like incredible, like that thing that you put on the field to scare. Anyway, so business news. Mars partners with biotech firm Pairwise to engineer cocoa crops. Interesting. Now, the DOT proposes rules allowing UAVs, right, drones, to fly beyond the operator's line of sight and deliver coffee. That makes no sense. What is that? Yeah, it is actual. Yeah, it's business news. And then if you're a fan of Claire's store that pierces your earrings, they filed for Chapter 11. They did that already in 2018 and then survived. And this time, supposedly, this is final. Also, in other news, OpenAI, that hosts ChatGPT, is now offering ChatGPT services, this professional whatever, for any federal employee for $1 a year. And, an interesting thing here is that anything that ChatGPT consumes it uses it to become smarter or learn more about you. So for that $1 a year, a federal employee would be using ChatGPT, feeding contracts, feeding any like executive orders or whatever they're dealing with, all the data to ChatGPT. So ChatGPT will actually get more information about every single worker. For what? To then to replace them, or to lower the number of federal employees needed, to automate it. So it's interesting. So if you're a federal employee who is there, unless you're part of the cult that, has to follow orders, think twice before you agree to that. That coffee stuff, the coffee by Jones, still bothers me. What is that? Anyway, more will be in the newsletter. I'll dig into it. So, as to Disney earnings, Q3 revenue missed estimates. They were estimating 23.73 billion, and the poor guys got 23.65 billion. But anyway, earnings beat forecast. Streaming rose by 6%. Why am I saying all this? Because if you are a sports fan, for instance, you would need to know that the new ESPN app would be launching on August 21st, right in time for, NBA and whatnot. And so this will cost $29.99 a month and will include ESPN channels and expanded features. Then also Hulu app will cease to exist and will become part of Disney Plus globally. And then ESPN NFL deal is progressing. So ESPN gets 10% NFL stake, gains control of NFL Network, Red Zone, and fantasy products. And WWE joins also ESPN. $1.6 billion deal. It's 5-year deal, gives ESPN exclusive rights to major WWE events starting in 2026. So this is a quick rundown for sports fans. Now, let's go to the global news. And so this was the news that sort of leaked very early in the morning, at least stateside, that essentially had a Polish news media channel publishing an audio of Trump's special envoy Witkoff talking to Putin. As you may recall, yesterday we discussed it, that Witkoff is a real estate guy. He has no idea about foreign relations, diplomacy, or anything of that nature, right? He went last time to meet Putin alone, and he thought the woman joining them was an American embassy employee who will be translating for him. The woman gladly agreed, and then turned out this was an FSB agent that also was an ambassador of Russia to NATO and whatnot. So, guy has little clue. Naturally, that conversation was recorded and audio was leaked to Poland. And the leak itself just shows you the relationship between Russia and US. And certainly if it's leaked, Russia leaked it. I doubt Witkoff understood where up and down is in that Kremlin building, to notice that something was recording, or to even have, get a hold of the recording. So this Polish news site is called Onet, like honest without the S. Anyway, they publish those contents. And so here are the details. Now, this is what Witkoff was suggesting. Then we also got the Russian side, where they said what they agreed to, what they heard from US, which essentially corresponded with some differences. So we're going to discuss it. So what Witkoff was saying is no peace deal. It just has to be a truce between Ukraine and Russia. And so there will be de facto recognition of Russian territorial gains by postponing the issue, and dig that, for 49 or 99 years. So we're just postponing the issue that the territories are occupied. People are starved and tortured in those under occupation by 49 to 99 years. So there will be children born, and everybody will be just under occupation, not having any identity, sovereignty, or anything. So you just want to get rid of Ukrainians because you're just going to cleanse this region. So also they will be lifting or suggesting to lift most sanctions on Russia, and long-term resumption of Russian oil and gas imports is on the table. There are no guarantees of, well, they're not requiring guarantees of NATO non-expansion. Also, no promises to suspend military support to Ukraine, and Russia accepted such terms. And so then the US media started celebrating it, that, oh my God, look, we achieved the big hoopla, because now Russia agrees not to include that NATO should not be expanding to Ukraine. Well, let me tell you, honey bunny, a country that is under partial occupation, by definition, cannot join NATO. It can't even join EU. Nobody wants these problems, but it's also under their rules and conditions. The country has to be sovereign, whole, with an entirely rightfully so structured economy, anti-corruption clauses, and there's also equality rights and women's rights and whatnot. Everything is listed there. So if your country is under partial occupation, nobody's going to let you into NATO, which is what? Security alliance? Defense alliance? So if Witkoff thinks that Russia agrees to that is a big hoopla, you're, even more so less than smart. And as to, Russia agreeing that there will be no term, nothing said that Ukraine should not be getting any arms, right? And now US is celebrating that as a big win. Well, it takes two to tango, right? I might agree to receive something from you, but if you don't want to give me anything, well, who cares if I agree to receive it or not? Because it's really up to the United States if Ukraine will be receiving anything. And United States can also say, well, there is peace deal or whatever, so we don't want to provoke Russia now. No. So we're not going to send anything. Why Ukraine needs that? They're just sitting there under occupation. They're not fighting. So for that reason, it's a bunch of baloney. It's disgusting, honestly. To talk about it is disgusting. And what I can tell you, that any peace deal that, first of all, does not speak about returning Ukrainian children home that has been stolen from their parents, it does not talk about holding those criminals and murderers accountable. This is not a peace deal. This is an appeasement deal. And if somebody doesn't understand the difference between, well, also today virtual meeting was held after all this was discussed, and who was there? Of course, Ukraine. Zelensky was there. The US was represented, I don't know by whom, they didn't say. And European nations, with leaders of European nations were there, and they were aligning their positions. Now, if US is present, what position were they aligning for? But then Zelensky talked to literally everyone, as I mentioned in the beginning of this live stream. So German Chancellor Merz said that they're saying that, well, he confirmed that Germany will be buying air defense systems for Ukraine under this Prioritize Ukraine Requirements List initiative. But again, it all has to be bought from the United States. And even though yesterday we discussed that Norway and other countries are pledging to buy worth $1 billion worth of air defense systems for Ukraine, first of all, US has to be able to produce it on time. And when will that be? And also, US holds the right, or has the right, to decide to allow or to prohibit the usage of such systems against a third country. So, and that really plays into the hand of anybody who's buying F-35s or F-16s also from US. If you were to fight a third party, you need Trump's, in this case, Trump's agreement to do so. So for that reason, it's a slippery slope. Now, today also Putin got a visitor. It was the UAE president, Mohammed bin Zayed. They talked about trade. They talked about their, relationship between UAE and Russia. And so then the president of UAE has proposed to host a meeting between Trump and Putin. Later, Putin gave a bit of an interview spoke to the press. He also always has this 3 chosen people and 1 chosen guy whom he invites to his private facilities in Kremlin. I showed you the videos of it. And so Putin said, quote, well, first he said that meeting with Trump, he said that it could happen soon, and this will be hosted by one of Russia's friends. To which Trump today also said that this will probably be happening next week, and he's so looking forward to it. And then Trump said that he intends to host a trio meeting, right? A meeting between Putin and Zelensky and Trump. To which today Putin said in that exchange with the media, he said that, quote, I don't oppose the idea of meeting with Zelensky, but it requires clear agreements and conditions, and we're still far from that. So essentially, and look, we need to understand that why this invasion of Ukraine started. Putin uses any opportunity to teach us about Ruriks and any twisted history that he wants to flip upside down and tell everyone, right? Or teach everyone. Essentially, he does not see Ukraine as a sovereign country. Hence, he doesn't see Zelensky as a leader worth negotiating with. And if Putin were to sit down at the table with Zelensky, in his own eyes, he would be legitimizing Ukraine and Zelensky. What I guesstimate will happen, he will be meeting with Trump. He will be talking about, rejuvenating our relationship and trade and this and that. And we're going to be unbeatable together, right? Behind the scenes, he's going to give Trump some type of deals, maybe some Mar-a-Lago-ish something in Moscow, or in Sochi or whatever, maybe Trump Tower in the middle of Moscow City, something of that nature. And then the sanctions will be eased or even dropped on Russia. The trade will resume. For that reason, there was a thing, right, that Witkoff proposed here, right? Long-term resumption of Russian oil and gas imports. So put that together with what? Extra tariffs on India because they're buying crude oil from Russia? What bunch of BS. US is willing to buy stuff from Russia. So that India story is just, squirrel. Don't talk about Epstein. Don't talk about anything. Just talk about India and the 25% tariff. Bogus. Now, after that, Ushakov, he's headlining this Russian delegation when they meet Ukraine or they talk about Ukraine or some type of negotiation. So he said that he's a Kremlin aide. And he said that United States has made an offer that Russian side considers acceptable. And then he presented the points of this offer. So we just heard what we had on the audio tape coming out of Witkoff. Now, this is what Russia allegedly, according to this Dmitriev, has agreed to. And temporary truce, yeah. De facto recognition of Russia's territorial gains, yes. Lifting most sanctions on Russia, yeah. Resumption of imports of Russian gas and oil. So they're pretty much aligned. The version of U.S. offer described now Kremlin aid. So some key differences, right, between what we heard from Witkoff, what we heard on that tape, and what we heard from Ushakov. Lack of any mention of NATO expansion, right? So Russia never mentioned that. No reference to continued Western military aid to Ukraine. And they also included temporary truce. So the word temporary was not from the U.S. side. So we'll see what will come out of it. But essentially, let's check your comments real quick. Mike says, "Hey, Mike, I want Canada to not buy F-35." Yeah, me too. Spain already declined, so maybe Canada will follow. Jared says, and the president of El Salvador. The friends hosting meetings. Yeah. Or is it straw man? Eros pudding straw. Yeah. Okay, you guys are having a discussion. Okay. All right. The entire Trump and his cabinet need to be kicked out of the White House, but they wanted to, yeah. Witkoff is out to lunch. Indeed. So essentially, whatever happens here is just, I think, theater. It's here to divert our news cycle into direction of, oh my goodness, Trump is so, ballsy with Russia and he will be meeting with Putin. And all we're going to hear about is meeting with Putin. Meanwhile, we have huge domestic shifts in terms of domestic policy. We have these EOs that are partially illegal. We kind of stopped even discussing this notion that the tariffs are illegal, that, Congress was never asked to even, you know, chime in as to what's going to happen with this tariffs, should they be happening or not. Then yesterday, the White House, of course, has the Constitution on the website, and they took out the parts where Congress would be in charge of tariffs. Then this was pointed out by the Democratic media, and they brought it back, and so they went back and forth with that Constitution on the White House website, which is kind of interesting. Why do they bother to take out parts, right? So I talked already about Brazil rejecting U.S. tariff pressure. In other news, Vice President Vance is headed to the UK. So on August 8th, which is tomorrow, he will be meeting with the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy to discuss a range of issues concerning US-UK relationship. The meeting will be happening in Kent, England. And if you know anything about Lammy or you ever listen to him speak, he can run circles around JD, or vice versa. He can put JD Vance into his place as, in a whim. But will he? That's the question, right? Because Lammy, in my opinion, when I listen to him, he's more dominant than Starmer. But then again, Prime Minister Starmer is the prime minister, and he dictates how those negotiations have to go about, with the U.S. So let's see what will happen tomorrow. But essentially, it's another squirrel. Nothing will be happening there in terms of deals or trade or anything. This is just another vacation in the UK for another official. And don't forget that Trump is headed to London with the state visit to visit the king and have this entire full-blown 1-week state visit in September, which will be, I think, between 15th and 17th, some days starting on the 15th. So a lot of trips to England, or the UK, Great Britain. Now, Netanyahu gave an interview which was blasted today in the media, where he announced Israeli plans to control full Gaza, all of it. So Prime Minister Netanyahu has announced plans to take control of Gaza. Quote, "We intend to take full control. We don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body." Then he added, "We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us, and to give Gazans a good life." And pay attention, those are Palestinians. Those are not just Gazans. What are we talking about? And also, who are these people? Are these people you're some type of sovereign, and they're your subjects that you're dictating who you're going to give them to? What kind of conversation is this? Yes, we know October 7th happened. We know this was horrific. We know Hamas is horrific. We know Hamas has to be eliminated and the hostages have to be returned. But we also know that Netanyahu certainly overstays his welcome. And if you've seen any pictures of Gaza, if you've seen any pictures of starving children, we kind of want to know that, why we don't put anything against Netanyahu. We're just listening to him as to what his desires are. Because what? Because of things that happened during World War II? Yes, these things happened. Yes, they were horrific. Yes, there's a bunch of people who are still, suffering the consequences of it. But it doesn't mean that we have to allow somebody who wants to be or is already some type of a demagogue as Netanyahu, who puts the entire country, Israel as a country, in jeopardy by invading other countries. I mentioned yesterday, 600 national security advisors, Israeli advisors, wrote a letter to Trump asking to stop Netanyahu. Netanyahu wants to prolong the conflict so he can stay in power and avoid prosecution. And it rings the bell, right? And so in that regard, it has nothing to do what is best for Israeli people. So we need to separate a little bit, dive, a bit deeper. The same story when people were screaming from the river to the sea, Palestine, blah, blah. It means you've never seen a map. If you say from the river to the sea, check which river, check which sea, it means you want to eliminate Israel, which is horrific. What are you talking about? So for that reason, I understand if you support either side, but please dive deeper and don't over exaggerate, some clueless opinions. So Doc says he can swap Epstein stories with Prince Andrew. Yeah, and I mean, this was something what I was thinking about. There's probably so many people who want the talk about Epstein to stop, including perhaps the royal family. So it's interesting how everything sort of everybody plays along, right? We produce this artificial news. Yes, I think the news on Ukraine are artificial. They're not going to bring anything. We have this artificial news with Scotland going there, announcing something with EU. Next day, we learn it was nothing. It was a deal with UK, and Trump was dropping papers at the G7. Was nothing again. So there's a bunch of nothing. It's like all you would be eating is like this fake sugar, whatever replaces stevia or whatever. Everything you consume is just artificial stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with real life, with the benefit for somebody. We just have specific actors here. And we have, of course, we have Trump, and we have Putin, and we have Netanyahu, and we have all this. We have in Turkey, what's his face? I forgot his name. Anyway, we have a bunch of different actors who are interested in their own enrichment, in their own power. And when enrichment is achieved, power is the next goal. And then they want to expand this power. And so, yeah, we have also we have the North Korean, Kim Jong-un. We have these specific actors who are trying to navigate their power games. And meanwhile, citizens are struggling. So in the news that we're discussing is a bunch of nothing, literally nothing. So anyway, what we need to discuss, though, there is a new virus in China that has spread very, very fast. Essentially, in one day, over 7,000 people, which I know for China, it's nothing. But they got this chikungunya virus. Essentially, this is a virus passed by mosquitoes. And so there were 7,000 cases reported in southern China, prompting the U.S. travel advisory. Extreme heat and rain have worsened the outbreak. Measures include insecticide spraying, drone surveillance, and fines for failing to remove standing water. So this is sort of spreading in China, and now we have the travel advisory. Now, as to Lebanon, the Lebanese government has directed the army to develop a plan to bring all weapons under state control. Hezbollah opposes the move, of course, and the U.S. and Israel are pressuring Lebanon to act. And of course, essentially, if we're speaking about Israel, yes, they are, threatened by Hezbollah, threatened by all these, subgroups that are affecting Israel's security and safety. So for that reason, they're demanding Lebanon to cease the arms, which actually makes sense here. Now, Sudanese forces reportedly shot down a plane carrying Colombian mercenaries who were headed to fight with the UAE-backed RSF. So dozens were killed. The UAE has denied involvement and banned Sudanese aircraft from its airspace. So this happened earlier. This happened, for instance, when Ukrainians were headed to fight. It was all the way back around 2014. It does happen when they use private planes or civilian, planes, and then for different purposes, and then the other side reacts and shuts it down, and then it's reported as a private plane was whatnot. But essentially, so there was Sudanese forces who were preventing Colombian mercenaries to join the fight of these UAE-backed RSF. Now, as to Congo, I know Trump talks about, solving all these wars, but Rwanda-backed M23 rebels killed at least 319 civilians in eastern DRC last month, the deadliest toll since 2022. Now, this is something that Trump claims he finished. This is the war he solved. But meanwhile, you see 319 civilians were killed. And DRC Rwanda peace deal was signed in Washington, and talks with M23 are ongoing, but M23 has not ceased to exist, but also they never signed up for any peace deal or to ceasefire. So this is still ongoing. Now, as to Cambodia and Thailand, they have some type of truce or peace deal, and the two nations agreed to allow Asian, so the group ASEAN, military observers to oversee their border ceasefire. Now, Malaysia will lead the monitoring mission, so essentially they do have a peace deal, and they have an external body controlling it. In this case, Malaysian forces are doing so. As to Pakistan, they had a flooding, and now they're digging into what caused it. The new analysis finds last month's deadly monsoon floods in Pakistan were made 10 to 15% worse by climate change. The country, which emits less than 1% of global greenhouse gases, continues to suffer disproportionately from climate impacts, because, of course, of their location and others, right? Now, and by the way, the climate change will be one of the most discussed topics at the CGI 2025. This is Clinton Global Initiative. I got my invitation today to cover it. Last year was very interesting. First Lady, at that point, First Lady Jill Biden was there talking to Hillary Clinton about women's health and her investment in it. And then President Biden at that point showed up and got an award. I know that he was signed to speak at the CGI 2025. He was not listed among the guests, but I anticipate him to be there. It's very positive-minded, upbeat, and proactive conference, so I actually like it. I don't like conferences, but this was really interesting because everybody came in to report on the results that they did within that year. And this is how Clinton Global Initiative works. I know there's a lot of misinformation about it, and I'm not advertising anything, but the way they work is when somebody comes in and presents an idea, they help them to put a plan together and connect it with people who can contribute to it, or companies, sponsors, and whatnot. And then the conference itself is everyone shows up and says, look, I committed this and I achieved this. And so this really sort of just real-time reporting on what has been done. So no empty promises, but really results. And that makes it a bit different, but also very positive-minded, because there's doers, not just talkers. So we'll see what will be there. Climate change is a big topic there. Also equality, also girls and women's rights. So we'll see who will be there. There's a bunch of CEOs and different companies also reporting on what they've done this year. So this will be, I think, September 23rd, 24th in New York. So I will cover it in real time and, stream anything that or go live or whatever with anything that happens there. If Biden shows up or anybody that needs some, maybe extra exposure. Okay, so Brandon is saying first time around, Trump will ignore it. You guys have a discussion. Jared says, tell me about it right now. I have forest fire. Okay, talk about climate change. And then Mike says, sounds awesome. I guess it's to CGI. Yeah. Okay, so we're done. I wanted to show something that... Yes, this is what I did show, that von der Leyen, before I went live, she put out the statement that she spoke with Zelensky, and she underscored that Europe's position is clear. We fully support Ukraine. We'll continue to play an active role to guarantee a just and lasting peace. And then she says, we discussed the next steps on the way towards negotiated peace agreement and Ukraine's future membership in the European Union, as well as reconstruction. So, and this is the last message I wanted to kind of bring up to your attention, because if she mentions that the priority for EU is to continue Ukraine's path, or Ukraine on the path to European membership, as I explained to you, this means that EU will not be recognizing any temporary occupied areas or, agree to delay this by 49 to 99 years or anything, because just in their register, per their rules, they cannot accept a country that is partial, I'll be joining you as a partial country. So then essentially just think about it logically. If EU or NATO, except NATO, forget about it, it's a defense alliance. Country that is spread or occupied cannot join because it gives NATO a problem right away. But EU is an economic union. And so if you get Ukraine on board that is under partial occupation, every single decision, every single dollar that EU will be, or euro that EU will be sending to Ukraine, would need to be agreed upon with Putin, right? So who will allow this to happen? This is just so obnoxious and so stupid, for the lack of better word, that I'm just sick of even discussing this type of proposals. Mike says, thanks. I'm see you there. Yes, yes, we're going to Blue Sky. Thanks for your hard work. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. So if you're not following, please follow. If you're on YouTube specifically, like it so other people will get this video as well. And the algorithm works this way. If you like it, it will be suggested. And if you hate it, share it. Just say, look, this whatever she says nonsense. But if you share it, it will boost our algorithm. So I'm grateful to haters too. If you do your work and you comment your hateful comments, this will just help our cause. So that Brandon cult guy, thank you for commenting. You boosted us. So appreciate you. Okay. So thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Jack. Thank you so much, everybody. See you tomorrow. I guess we'll be at noon again tomorrow per usual, and I'll put it up on Blue Skies. I always say, like, thank you for joining me live. If you prefer a certain time, comment. And I'm Eastern, so comment whatever you suggest. I was thinking noon is easy for lunchtime and also for Europeans because they're not asleep yet, so we'll figure out what's best. Okay, so thank you, Mike. Nobody can hate you. Oh, thank you so much. Well, you're too kind. We had the guy who didn't like what I was saying. Yes, Brett, thank you so much. Have a great evening. Well, stay safe. Keep your head on a swivel and see you tomorrow. The newsletter is coming soon.